Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Perfect. This is the third webinar in the series, Improve Your Home Energy Efficiency, the Retrofit Journey, where we will discuss strategies on prioritizing your upgrades. So for those of you who are joining us for the first time, my name is Jenna. I'm a Built Environment Initiatives Coordinator with the Community Energy Association. So this evening's session was meant to include two presentations focused on understanding your home's energy use to best prioritize your upgrades. Unfortunately, one of the speakers was unable to attend. So as such, the webinar tonight will not be the full 90 minutes as originally planned. We should wrap up in about an hour, depending on how many questions we have from you folks on the call. We are, though, very fortunate to have Tom Giltenan, Energy Advisor with Bernhardt Contracting, here to speak to EnerGuide evaluations and how they can help you prioritize your home energy retrofits. So we will just get started right away. Move the slide forward, please, there, Tom. Perfect. All right, so I'm calling in from what is now known as Nelson, but for thousands of years has been the traditional homeland of the Snakes Nation, the Silks Nation, and the Tanaha Nation, and is home to the Métis and many diverse Indigenous people. So I'd just like to take this time to express my deep respect and gratitude for their generations of stewardship of this area's waters, mountains, and forests. So as part of CEA's commitments to truth and reconciliation, we recognize the importance of amplifying Indigenous climate leadership. So throughout these webinars, I've been opening up with a story of Indigenous leadership and high performance building and want to share an example from the Penticton Indian Band. So in 2013, the Penticton Indian Band had a growing population and not sufficient housing supply. They connected with Landform Architecture and Design Build to address this shortage and provide a template for future provision of housing that is more durable, comfortable, and sustainable than what was built in the past. So 8 homes were constructed, 6 with EnerGuide ratings of 88, 1 as a LEED Platinum certification, and 1 as a certified passive house. All homes were oriented to the south for maximum passive solar heat gain with natural cross ventilation and generous overhangs, and included energy efficient HVAC equipment and appliances. So native landscaping provided continuity with the surrounding grasslands and also eliminated the need for irrigation and maintenance. Materials used were durable, requiring little maintenance, and they were resistant to wildfire. So just to close the story with a quote from their website, it says, "Our efforts to reduce the energy use of the homes not only reduces heating costs, it connects us to timeless and traditional ways of building, which relate to the movement of the sun, natural breezes, and the Indigenous landscape." So once I've concluded kind of this introduction here, I'll provide a link in the chat where you can learn more about this incredible show of Indigenous leadership in the built environment. And just back one slide there, Tom. Sorry, I know it looks like there was a bit of a change in the font color there. This is hard to read, but I'm just introducing the Community Energy Association. So who are we? CEA is a registered charity and nonprofit committed to accelerating bold action by local governments and Indigenous communities related to climate and energy. So we are the only nonprofit in BC focused exclusively on supporting local government and Indigenous communities on climate and energy activities. We have 50 staff located in 27 communities across 5 provinces and territories. We accelerate local action on climate and energy through our collective capacity, expertise, experience, passion, and commitment to truth and reconciliation. So what does that have to do with building better? Well, CEA's work recognizes that the built environment is a main source of community-based greenhouse gas emissions, and that action in this sector can not only result in significant greenhouse gas emission reduction, but can lead to enhanced community resiliency and energy security while increasing the comfort, health, and safety of our homes. And then just the next slide there, please. So the Kootenay Clean Energy Transition, or KSET, is a project that was developed to address shifts happening in the energy efficiency, renewable energy, and home comfort space. And apologies for the wonky slide there. I think we just had some shifts when we combined our presentations. But through KSET, we want to help Kootenay and boundary communities prepare for a more energy efficient and healthy future through training and capacity building sessions for building professionals and community workshops that focus on high performance building, like this one. So thanks to the generous contributions of the organizations listed at the bottom of this slide, we're able to provide these workshops for free in partnership with building science experts. So just before I pass things over to Tom, a couple quick housekeeping items. If you have any questions as we go through, feel free to raise your hand and I'll call upon you to ask Tom directly. You're also welcome to put your questions in the chat, and I'll do my best to ask Tom throughout his presentation, or we may decide to save a few for Q&A after the presentation. You will have noticed as you signed in that this session is being recorded. It will be shared along with Tom's presentation slides to all of you folks on the call early next week. And then after tonight's session, we will be requesting you folks to complete a quick feedback poll where you'll have an opportunity to highlight additional topics you'd like us to explore in subsequent sessions. So these polls are incredibly helpful in guiding us in the development of future information sessions, and we do really greatly appreciate your honest feedback. All right, and so with that, it's my pleasure to introduce Tom Giltenan. Tom is an energy advisor with Bernhardt Contracting and lives in Roslyn. Aside from energy advising, he has experience as a high school teacher, journeyman electrician, landscaping, and insulating industrial pipe. So we are incredibly lucky to have Tom with us here tonight to share his insights and wisdom. And Tom, with that, I'll pass things over to you.
Thank you very much for that very flattering introduction. Yes, again, my name is Tom Giltenan. I work for Bernhardt Contracting and as an energy advisor. I have many backgrounds, probably too many careers to be proud of, but it certainly helps me with energy advising. So let's get right into it. So right now we're going to start talking about our upgrades and the importance of EnerGuide evaluations and the benefits that can come from them. So first, let's just go over some benefits of an efficient home. Home energy retrofits enhance energy efficiency while providing a more comfortable and healthy environment. So retrofits can involve improving the building envelope through the windows, walls, roof. Do this through air sealing, enhanced insulation, and more efficient windows and doors. Updating your home heating, cooling, and ventilation, hot water systems with more efficient equipment such as heat pumps. And you can install energy saving measures such as programmable thermostats and upgrading appliances and lighting. All these can have a big benefit in reducing your energy use in the future, and which usually goes hand in hand with reducing your costs. So why spend money on an EnerGuide evaluation? Why spend it if you're just going to get rebates for heating equipment? There's a lot of reasons for this. First and foremost, an energy advisor will provide you with a detailed plan called an EnerGuide report to help reduce the energy costs over the long term. Without this energy evaluation, you essentially don't have a picture of how your home is losing energy at the moment or as it is. Without that picture, you don't know where to go. You could be spending on an issue that you don't need to spend money on, or that becomes that you should be spending money elsewhere. Sorry about this. Go back. An example of this would be your heating equipment. If you go and install a new heating equipment without tackling your air tightness first, your insulation levels, or your windows, and then you tackle those after the fact, your heating equipment will be too large. Having too large heating equipment is costly for two reasons. The equipment itself is much more expensive because it's larger than you needed to get. And secondly, because your efficiency level of that equipment goes down with oversizing. That's just one example of why having an EnerGuide evaluation done first to identify the spots where you're losing energy really helps you make those informed decisions going forward. So with that, we'll get into the process itself. There's 4 steps essentially. You have your pre-retrofit assessment. This is probably your more important, especially in terms of using your energy advisor to their full potential. This is again where you go in, you have your site visit, and you get you get that picture of where your house is sitting, so you know how to go forward. Then you have the renovation itself. This is one place where your energy advisor can come in handy here is with a mid-construction blower door test. I'll get into that a little more detail later. But this will give you an idea if you're on track to hitting those targets that you've identified. Then you have your post-renovation assessment, and you get your rebates or go after rebates if there's any available then. So then we start with our pre-renovation assessment. So the pre-renovation assessment is an inspection of a home to identify areas that need improvements. This assessment helps to identify air leaks, insulation values, and other issues that may need addressing before the renovation process starts. Typically, we will start with a phone call with our client to first get to know each other. That's pretty important. The second, that way, getting to know each other helps us identify the needs and wants for your home and your renovation and your upgrades. Identifying a need versus a want can also be beneficial at this stage and help you plan out your renovation plan. And we'll get into that a little bit more. Then we'll also schedule a site visit at that time. And the site visit is where the assessment of the home begins. We have some assessment tools that we use during this site visit to give us that picture of where your home is. Then we discuss those priorities that we highlighted earlier in the phone call, and we start that planning process. With that information, we provide you an EnerGuide label, the homeowner information sheet, and a renovation report with those upgrades in mind and planned out. Some of the assessment tools that we use while we were on our site visit and after the fact is energy modeling. We have blower door testing, thermography. I think I said that right the first time, and visual inspections of the home itself. So we go and we take the site visit. We do these things. The energy model. We take the data from our site visit with the visual inspections, and we create an energy model. With that energy model, we create an energy guide and label for you for that picture of your home. We do a blower door test to give you an idea how leaky the home is. During this test, we also can identify where leaks may be coming from. That in conjunction with the thermography, we take photographs and see where your home is leaking with thermal inspection. Then we actually do a physical inspection. It's a pretty invasive process. We need to get access to your attic if possible, crawl spaces, basements, mechanical equipment where we take photos. We want to get a picture if we can. We want to get into the walls to get an idea of insulation levels. It's nothing that can be done online virtually. People need to get in your home to do this. It gives you the better picture, the overall picture of of the home and how it stands. Like I mentioned before, we have blower door tests that we will do. This gives us an idea how leaky the home is, as well as identifying and directing us to areas where you will have leaks. For instance, we just did a home and it blew 9.5 air exchanges per hour. So that means on a fairly decent or average windy day, that home will in an hour expel 9.5 times the volume of air out of its home. So you can imagine how expensive that is to essentially heat the outside. So there's a few things you'll want to do to get ready for this. You have to turn off your fuel-fired heating and water systems. You want to during the test. Sorry, you have to turn out the fuel-fired heating and water systems during the test. You want to avoid turning them on. Ensure all fireplaces are closed and airtight or fully cleaned out. We've heard some very bad experiences of ashes flying through the home, and we want to avoid that as much as possible. You also, with your visual inspection of the home, you may come across some asbestos, and testing may be required in order to go forward. We don't want to contaminate the home in any way. Let's see here. Oh, yes, okay. So with all that information, we take that home, we take that back to our office, not home, and we put it into our energy modeling software. It gives us a picture of where we're sitting. Here at Bernhardt, we also use another program called Heat, and it can give us an actual visual representation of where your home is losing its energy, right? Windows, walls, air leakage, basement, doors, attics and ceilings, exposed floors, as well as where your home is using its energy. Okay, so that's where it compares with your mechanicals. This is also very good to do because you often tackling those low-hanging fruits, the easiest, the largest things, such as increasing insulation, improving air tightness, can often be relatively easy when you have a very leaky home to tackle certain areas and then greatly improve that air leakage. That would also reduce your energy usage and the size of your mechanical equipment. I mentioned before about avoiding those pitfalls and installing things in the wrong order or whatnot. And often we want to use what is called the house as a system or envelope first approach. So in this, you'd tackle your envelope first, right? So this would be your air leakage, your insulation levels, your windows, foundation, that kind of thing. That would then improve the thermal and the thermal performance of your home, which then would decrease the energy use or energy required to heat your home. This then would decrease your mechanical size. So going in and just retrofitting your mechanical equipment before you tackle your envelope can have effects or unwanted effects, and in fact, drastically decrease the efficiency of those mechanical installations when you get around to tackling the envelope. You want to think about it in terms of these two jackets here. You start out with a home like this, you will be spending a lot of energy that will be coming out through the holes, the leakiness, the very small thermal a break you have, and then you compare it to increasing like a down jacket, Gore-Tex that's breathable. You now end up needing a lot less energy to stay warm. So it's a nice little, oops, shoot, keep doing that. I apologize. So some of the benefits that can come across from this are lower utility costs, increased comfort, enhanced indoor air quality, and longer lasting homes. A healthy home is a longer lasting home. Okay. Some of the things you want to talk about with your energy advisor, and this is where their experience really comes in handy, is the key considerations to, one, increase the efficiency of your home, the comfort of your home, the indoor air quality, which is a health and safety issue, your moisture control, same thing, but also moisture has an effect on the longevity of your home. With this approach, you end up tackling the large areas which are typically least costly first. So don't let those rebates dictate your plan. One thing that people often forget about is your indoor air quality. Energy advisors are often very good at helping with this. We can tell you how to improve with ventilation upgrades, with an ERV or an HRV, air purifiers. You can put in CRVs just to get mechanical ventilation going. And then you want to address those moisture issues. That can be done by tackling your envelope and tackling your air and vapor barrier, as well as mechanical installations and equipment installations. So after all that's been discussed with your energy advisor, you guys get a plan of the way you want to go ahead and areas you want to tackle. You'll get an EnerGuide label. This is essentially where your home sits. It'll show you where your energy home is rated compared to, excuse me. So this is where your home is rated. This is where your home compares to a similar home. You want to basically move in the direction of 0 gigajoules as much as possible. And this kind of identifies some of those areas where your home sits at the moment. Then you'll get your home information sheet. This is a snapshot of your home. This is where it shows your insulation levels, the dimensions, as well as where your home basically can improve with all that. Where your home sits with your leakage and whatnot. We then go, and then this is where your plan comes in. So the renovation upgrade report is also provided, and it shows you where your home is, where your home is going to be. And then we also, the more important part, it identifies your recommendations, depending on how many upgrade recommendations you and your energy advisor agree with, and where it's going to get you in terms of your rebates that you're looking for, and the more important aspect of how to improve your energy performance of your home. Then you get into the renovation phase. This is as simple as it sounds. Essentially, you take those renovation upgrades, that plan, and you put it into action. Depending on rebates and timelines, this is where a plan comes into a real big benefit. So for instance, if you may want to tackle a roof 1 year, and then maybe go after an envelope, because the year after you know that the siding might need to be replaced. So that may be an easy way to increase, or a good time to increase, the insulation level, add some exterior insulation. Or if you plan on remodeling the interior of your home at that time, maybe you can do that. You also, maybe it's a few months down the line, and that's when that heat pump comes in, the installation and upgrading of your mechanical equipment after your envelope's sorted. Or in a very rare situation, we've had someone install and upgrade their mechanical equipment because they knew they couldn't afford to get to their building envelope for a few years down the line. So seeing that savings in energy efficiency right away was more beneficial, and actually more beneficial cost reasons, but also energy reasons, because it was further down the line that they could actually tackle their envelope properly. So then you go through your renovation phase. You add those all. It is what it is. You install your upgrades and renovation. Then we do your post renovation assessment. This is basically, we come back, we do another site evaluation to improve, or get the documents required to prove that we installed and you installed the upgrades that were set out in our report, as well as doing the evaluation, and then another blower door report test to ensure that we hit our targets in our air tightness. We then take that information, we plug it into our energy model, upload it again to EnerGuide, and we get a new EnerGuide label that shows you where your home is. You take that information, that label, and then that's when we go with our rebates. So you have financial rebates and utility rebates. It depends on where you are and what is available. And then from there, sorry. And then we take that and just that's about it. We have a little bit of a review. So pre-renovation assessment involves identifying areas of the home that need improvement, evaluating the home's energy efficiency, and assessing safety hazards. You do the renovation involves making necessary repairs and upgrades to the home, improving energy efficiency, and ensuring a safe and healthy environment. The post-renovation assessment this assessment involves evaluating the effectiveness of the renovation, ensuring that all work was completed, and make any necessary adjustments. And then the rebates and incentives help homeowners offset the cost of renovations and encourage the use of energy efficient materials and practices. Thank you very much. I'll take any questions if there are any.
Thanks, Tom. That was great. And folks on the call, we did originally plan on having a representative from Fortis here speaking to Fortis rebates. So that's why Tom was going into too much detail about the rebates, but unfortunately they were unable to come, but I am happy to share out the presentation slides that they were going to present so that you can get some information about rebates there. So thanks, Tom. That was great. If anyone has any questions, I didn't see any come through the chat, feel free to raise your hand and unmute yourself or pop them in the chat. I have a couple of questions. I can kind of get us started. Oh, actually, you know what? One just popped in the chat. So let's start with that one. Wondering what your thoughts are on virtual EnerGuide assessments.
I dislike them. Like I mentioned earlier, a proper assessment and site evaluation is required to know where your home stands. You need to get into those walls, you need to get into those attics, you need to identify areas of leakage that can't be done virtually. It's a pretty invasive process to be done properly and to get a proper picture of where your house stands.
Great, thanks. Okay, oh, Lori says she can't read her energy audit, so she doesn't know how to start. Without a concierge program, she's stuck. So how can she start retrofitting? So I guess how can she better understand her reports from her energy audit?
Oh, well, I would assume your energy advisor would be a person to reach out to better understand and read the report of anything you'd understand. There's also there's like a couple resources on the EnerGuide and EnerGuide labeling site, as well as I can help you if you want to reach out to me. If you want, I can go back to that slide of the EnerGuide label itself, just the label, but I don't have much more than just the first label on that slide. Just one moment while I find it.
It's mostly, Tom, it's mostly that it is very complex and it's not my field. So when I look at it, it's just totally overwhelming. And it says you're 20% and 16%. And I'm looking at that and I'm going, what do I do with this information? And the last CEA webinar was great because he said, take off your coverings of your plugs on the outer walls and fill them up and baseboards and stuff. But so I could maybe tackle some of those air leaks, but the rest of the stuff, I just can't really understand it without having a concierge and just hiring somebody because they're loopy. Like you don't know who you're getting to help do this kind of retrofit. And so we're a lot of single women in this world living in homes that we'd like to have better. It's very challenging.
Yeah. I totally understand and I feel for you. There are, just like in any profession, there are good energy advisors. They're not so good energy advisors. I highly recommend, if you can, talking to other homeowners and friends to get referrals. Also reaching out to organizations like Retrofit Assist. They can help in areas that have the Retrofit Assist program, I suppose. But apart from that, that you're identifying a need and an issue that is out there. Just like there are good contractors, there are good EAs, and just like there are bad contractors, there are not so great EAs as well. It's quite important to get a good EA, as I've highlighted with all the requirements and things that you really need to do and highlight. I understand as well as trying to do the upgrades as a homeowner. to save money from those builder costs. I know that some renovations and some rebates require a contractor, but I know some don't. And I believe air leakage is one. And that is a low-hanging fruit that can often be done by the homeowner, but you're all right again, unless the EA is showing you where they are and giving you ideas of how to do it, you are kind of on your own to either do the research yourself or have someone show you. Again, the importance of having a good energy advisor. Sorry, I know that's not a whole lot of exact help, but I hope that helps a little bit.
Well, Tom, you mentioned some resources on how to read your EnerGuide report. Do you know where we can find those?
Yes, I was looking at them this morning. So let's see here. One was, let's see, I'm just gonna get the website. There's this website. So the one is the EnerGuide Evaluation. Sorry. Okay.
No problem.
So here's one, and this is a great resource that gives you a step-by-step of the pre-retrofit EnerGuide evaluation. It's actually the title of the page. And it gives you a step-by-step. It even has a YouTube video of what to expect. And then if you click on the next step, it shows you the retrofit your home. And then where did I find? Oh, and then of course, there's the Retrofit Assist website that I love and use quite often. And that's just retrofitassist.ca. Write it in here as well. Sorry. I mean, we can direct you to a few energy advisors in your area that do retrofits readily, or ourselves if we have a capacity at the time. So you can use us as a resource as well. But yeah, Retrofit Assist is a good place to start. And they because it'll give you ideas of what the process is of the home energy guide. Sorry, yeah, the evaluation process, and the benefits and the roles of each step. And then that resource that I gave right at the beginning of the natural resource one is a really good resource. A natural resource, that's a really good resource.
Great, thanks, Tom. If anyone else has questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. I haven't seen any new ones come through. I would just wanted to go back to the blower door test. You talked about kind of that process in detail and what folks can expect and how to get ready for it. And you mentioned that it measures air loss in the home. Can you just share like how does it do that? What?
Sure. Yeah. So I wonder if I can go back to, how do I pick my slide here? Maybe I'll just do it the long way. So essentially we set a door up, a makeshift door, a big red one, from our company anyway. And we put that fan in it, and we do a static pressure difference between outside and inside. And we do different readings at different pressure levels to essentially mimic a full year's worth of weather outside in different kind of situations. So really windy to not so windy. And it gives us an idea of how leaky your home is. So the data that it produces actually tells us how leaky the home is. So I think I mentioned before, as an example of a home had 9.5 air exchanges, meaning 9.5 times the home volume, left the home on a somewhat windy day within an hour. But more importantly, at this time, we can actually set the fan to just continually run at a fairly low rate. And I use what my favorite piece of a device to find air leaks. And we go around, we look for them, and I use a feather on a stick. And I go around, and you see the feather move with air movement, and you can see it move around windows. That's a typical spot. or top and bottom plates of walls, where the walls meet the floor or ceiling, and around headers and basements and stuff like that. That kind of give us an idea where to look, specifically in areas that we have access to, like basements. That's really easy. That can direct us to areas. So I mentioned that place with 9.5 air exchanges. That home actually, one of the lowest hanging fruits was to tackle the air leakage, because they had a crawl space that was open to the home above and had a big open door. So we just basically told them put a door on it and add a little bit of poly on the inside. And I think their air exchanges just doing that went down to 6. So it was a drastic increase in performance and air tightness with a very small amount of work.
Great.
Those are-
Any risk
those are-
associated with going too far down the air tightness journey and having a very
Yeah,
airtight home?
a little bit, but not so much in retrofits. The retrofits, we have a hard time unless it's an incredibly deep retrofit. Right from the beginning, you tackle almost a whole new air barrier. It's harder to get down to those lower numbers where ventilation becomes a big issue. If we do, I really strongly urge us to get down to those low numbers whenever possible. That's when we have that discussion about mechanical ventilation, because we don't want to have your walls sitting with moisture. So we want to make sure that they're drying properly, whether that be preferably outside, but in some cases it might have to dry inwards. And if that's the case and we put poly on the inside, it can't dry on the inside that way. So making that plan is important at that stage for sure. And then, yeah, adding mechanical ventilation. I like mechanical ventilation even on a fairly leaky home anyway, because you get to then control the ventilation of your home. You're not relying on it going through the walls, which is what you don't want, because when it goes through the walls, it's not being filtered, so you're decreasing your health, or increasing health risk, I should say. And you're also bringing it through whatever is in those walls. So if you decide not to tear down and open up all your walls, and maybe there's vermiculite in there and you're pulling air through it. Vermiculite often has asbestos in it and other bad things. So mechanical ventilation, I think, is a good thing regardless. But it is definitely important once you get down into those lower levels, just for the safety of the home itself.
Yeah, great, thanks. And on the topic of asbestos, Joanna just asked what is involved in the testing for asbestos. Her house was built in 1951 and she's in Edmonton.
Okay. Yeah, so there, Edmonton, I'm not 100% sure. I'm sure it's similar to here. You basically contact the authority, and they it depends the situation, but I believe most of the time you can someone comes and collects a sample for you. It can be a little costly, but I highly recommend it if you have any suspect of it. So anywhere where there might be loose vermiculite kind of insulation is definitely a risk. Anywhere old insulation, old tile, these are things that definitely I would throw caution toward. Having tile and things that are hard, I wouldn't be concerned as an energy advisor in doing a blower door test. It's the loose stuff like loose insulation, vermiculite. That's typically the big areas. But definitely have a professional address that.
Great. And so if you're performing the pre-retrofit EnerGuide evaluation and you come across asbestos, am I correct in assuming you don't move forward then with the blower door test?
Yes, typically. If I find asbestos or vermiculite, I live in Roslyn, DC. I, I want to say the average home is from like 1920 or earlier. And so there's a lot of vermiculite, and we are very close to a smelter, and a lot of, I think, material was taken from there from some of the workers when they built the home. So there's a lot of material in this area that can be suspect of asbestos. And if it's loose, you definitely don't want to be doing a blower door test. I'm actually on the Casey technical committee, and this is something we are addressing right now. It's kind of basically, if an energy advisor comes across what we might suspect to be vermiculite, we have the right to refuse to do the blower door tests for safety reasons and also for liability reasons. We don't want to bring asbestos into your home in any level, especially with blower door, because you don't have any, it could fall on any surface. So it's a really big risk in that way. Doing so we like to do a depressurized test. That's the most accurate. It's where it sucks all the air out of the home. That's your most dangerous when you have, say, an open fireplace just for ashes, or if you have a vermiculite or asbestos situation, because you are then essentially blowing air through the home. You can do a pressurized test. It's not as accurate, and you still have the risk of blowing asbestos or contaminants into the home, because it could come through the attic or a basement or anything and get it backdraft somewhere. So I would be reluctant. It's hard in Roslyn because you want to do those blower door tests because you want to get that initial, you want to know how leaky your home is to know that you are on the right path. Now, if you're also in Roslyn and you have a 1920s home, you basically, any improvement you do air tightness wise will definitely improve. So I don't think it would really have a massive effect on like a rebate problem, because you're essentially going to improve anyway.
Great,
Does that
thanks.
help?
Yeah, no one, yeah, very helpful. Yeah, thank you. Okay, and folks, continue to pop your questions in the chat. and keeping my eye there. I just had another question, Tom. We talked about wanting to upgrade your building envelope first before mechanical equipment to avoid oversizing that new heating equipment. But what if folks are needing to upgrade their heating equipment? Like say their current equipment breaks down or is coming to end of life and they need to upgrade that. Is there a way that they can plan, like knowing the rest of their retrofit journey, that they're wanting to upgrade their building envelope? Is there a way that they can create a plan to avoid oversizing the mechanical equipment?
There is a way, and this is where the importance of working with an energy advisor closely is another benefit, because you can come up with either a short-term plan or a long-term plan, right? And depending on that plan, maybe you don't go through the rebate scheme right away. Maybe it's something you put off, or maybe it is something you get the benefit of right away, knowing that you won't be able to do the rebate again in the future. Just like the example I mentioned earlier, if you were to, or even a worst case scenario, your furnace just dies and you need to install a furnace, right? And it's getting cold out. So maybe it is advisable to take the rebate at that time in order to get a heat pump as well as a furnace. Not just replace the furnace, or and then that will decrease your energy use, which will increase the energy performance of the home. Now, we might have to make that decision knowing in the near future you will be tackling your envelope. And if that's the case, then we can then look at different heat pumps that maybe can do different stages or different levels. That's not always the most economical, but it is an approach you can take. These are all, there's many, long story short, there's many avenues you can go down. And depending on the wants and needs and the urgency, I guess, would be another thing. At the time, you may come up with many different plans. And then go from there.
Yeah, and I know that that's where contractors and energy advisors can work together as well. So if they're your HVAC contractor who's sizing the equipment for your home, connects with the energy advisor to learn about what upgrades you're planning to do in the future, that can help them better size the equipment.
That's right. And that touches on another process that we often talk about more in new construction, but is just as vital in retrofits, is an integrated design process. And that's where the energy advisor, homeowner, builder, contractors all actually communicate with each other before we start, and actually get a plan that it fits everyone's schedule and that works with everyone and gets us to the desired spot we want in the end. And also maybe has to meet certain requirements at certain spots along the way that we then readdress a few years later, such as installing any mechanical equipment before we address the envelope.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Another question in the chat, we're testing your knowledge on asbestos here, but how likely is a 1970 home to have asbestos in it, specifically in Alberta?
I'm from Ontario and live in BC for the last 15 years, so Alberta is a little bit out of my range, but if it's anything like Ontario and here, the 80s were not kind. So, and I think late 70s were as great. And I know Canada was a very big producer of asbestos right up until, I believe, the early 2000s. So it's a really good question. I can't definitively say how likely you are to have it. I do know that tile in this late 70s, early 80s, there's a good like that particle boardy tile, and insulation vermiculite from that time has a higher likeliness of having asbestos. So yeah, sorry, I would consult a professional for that. When in doubt, check it out.
Great, thanks, Tom. Awesome, and yeah, Lori just shared in the chat there about some information about an upcoming webinar on deep energy retrofits. Thanks, Lori. So have a look there.
Thanks, Lori. That's great.
Yeah, and I believe you're sharing the recording out even if folks aren't able to attend in person. So go ahead and register.
Nice.
If you'd like to learn more about deep energy retrofits. Any other questions for Tom? Oh, I did just see a message come through. Okay, other than cost, do you find information to be the greatest barrier to retrofits or something else to folks completing retrofits?
Well, I think it's a combination of both, to tell you the truth. Retrofits at the moment can be costly, and they can actually be harder to perform when it comes to, well, for instance, disposing of asbestos, right? So they can be costly, but I do believe with more information, people would opt to do more retrofits than, say, tear down and start new. For instance, tear down in the Roslyn for the 1920s home that has asbestos in it, a tear down can cost about $90,000. That's because we have to ship all our asbestos to Alberta. Sorry about that. For disposal. So depending on your location, that can also increase costs, but retrofits can be costly too. The biggest thing is that I believe information would increase retrofits, but like avoiding red tape and asbestos and stuff like that can be a little bit of a hindrance and costly with retrofits. I still like to be a big advocate for retrofits. It's way better for the environment. It's better for upfront embodied in carbon costs. I like to see, old buildings be restored. I like the beauty in them. So yeah, I think that the cost and information are both hindrances to retrofits, and exploring a way to improve information for homeowners as well as builders. Builder knowledge gap seems, and EA gap can be a big deal. But also finding ways to reduce those retrofit costs that come up, like disposal, are something that I'm continually exploring.
Well, thanks, Tom, and thanks for everyone on the call. Apologies that we lost one speaker tonight, but when we do have that presentation lined up in future, we'll connect with you all and let you know when that is. And yeah, I did put information in the chat earlier on about the following webinars in this series. So looking forward to seeing you then, and we will share that information out along with Tom's slides and a link to the recording of this webinar early next week.
Thanks, everybody.
So thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Larry.